Hello, and welcome to the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast. I'm Erin DeVos, and I'll be your host for this season. Join us for insightful interviews that explore the work of up-and-coming independent filmmakers from all over the world. If you're passionate about film and keen to learning about the creative process from the future cinema greats, this podcast is a must-listen for you. Our mission is to provide listeners with the engaging and informative conversations about successful and innovative films, including features, shorts, documentaries, animation, and web series from across the globe. The DCIFF Film Chat Podcast is a unique opportunity for independent filmmakers to have their voices heard in a way no other film festival can provide. You can listen to the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast on all podcast platforms or visit our website at DCIFF-indie.org/DCIFF-podcast. Thank you. Thank you, Brian and Andrew, so much for joining the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast. I am welcoming the filmmakers of Only Roundup Remains, which is premiering this Sunday, February 16th at 8 p.m. at DCIFF 2025. So again, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Of course, yeah. And to start, do you guys mind sharing a bit about yourselves and as well as your film?
So I'm Brian Liu, the director and primary cinematographer for the film, and I am a Washingtonian through and through. I never left. I'm born here, raised here, and I've lived here my whole life. And I'm excited to be at a DC Film Festival. We did our world premiere in Montana where the film was shot, which we were happy with. And now we're finishing our festival run with our hometown premiere in DC. So it seems very apropos. We're excited for this, and it sold out very fast. We were shocked.
I'm Andrew Labens. I am the editor, producer, go-to handyman of the film. And I grew up in Nebraska by way of Montana and now live up in Maryland where I work as editor full-time.
It was also Andrew's idea to make the film. So,
Oh, cool. Sweet. And you mind sharing what the film is about?
yeah, it's kind of a experiential doc about a group of cowboys who do a traditional cattle roundup national forest land in Montana. They've been hired to do this since the early 1912s or 1900s, I should say. 1912, I believe, was the first year. And so we kind of followed their journey through their 8 days that they spend up in the Highwood Mountains in Montana. And you kind of get a look at the work and the people and the culture, mostly through family, a father and his two sons, to kind of show the generational aspect. Their family in general has had somebody riding on the roundup probably since 1920s, 1930s. So that's kind of our main arc that you see is through their eyes, but you get to experience the whole crew of cowboys.
Awesome. And I heard a few of the cowboys will also be joining us at the screening, right?
Yes, we got 3 guys who are in the film who will be joining us. They're actually on a flight right now, so they should get in later today.
Oh, cool.
So
one of the guys is Dave Ripley. His voice is used pretty much throughout our film. We're very excited to have him at the festival and for the Q&A. And the other guy is Art Kirby, who is Andrew's neighbor in Montana, actually. And the third guy is, we call the Squirrel. He's originally from West Virginia. He's the only non-Montanan in the group of cowboys, but he married into it, and he's a good cowboy. And we're excited to have all 3 of those guys here to meet our friends and to come see the festival.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, it's super exciting. And also to meet you guys and as well as them at the festival. We'll be recording the Q&A too. We'll have it as a bonus track to the episode as well. So that'll be really fascinating to hear from them as well. And what drew you to the story of Highwood Cattle Roundup?
mostly just stories I kind of heard growing up. My family we have a cabin out in Montana that we went to when I think I was probably 7, 8 years old when I first started going out there. And so I always kind of heard stories through my neighbors who rode on the roundup, and it just kind of sounded like this really, I mean, just very unique, like adult summer camp for guys. It almost kind of sounded like, just like a lot of fun and a lot of, you know, crazy stories about, horses running loose and just certain things that happen. And so,
Cowboy legend, basically.
yeah, it was always kind of like this mystical, thing that went on. So, as the years went on and I got done with college, I was living out there, and I kind of just had the idea that, hey, maybe somebody should just document this just for historical sake, just not even really thinking long term or, what we were going to do with it. So that's kind of how it began. And I had met Brian on my travels up north. He was judging at a film festival in Jackson, Wyoming, and we crossed paths and kind of chatted. So when I had the idea for the film, I emailed him up. I'd only met him once, and I emailed him. I was like, "Have you ever filmed anything on horseback?" And it kind of immediately got his attention, and we started chatting, and then that was, how we started.
I had never ridden a horse before, and Andrew, yeah, we just had a drink, and we actually only talked about music when we met. So we knew we saw eye to eye about music, and that's actually where the project began, when we kind of understood each other musically. We're both very interested in music. So when we saw eye to eye, when we realized we saw eye to eye with music, we knew we could work together. And I have a friend that I tour with sometimes with a band that I travel with doing film work. And his motto in life is, what's the worst that could happen? So I booked a flight, went out there into the mountains with a guy I'd only met once and never rode a horse before. And I was like, grab my cameras and let's go.
Yeah. Oh, how fascinating though. And was some of the filming was done on horseback then?
Oh yeah, a lot of it was.
Wow.
I
Did you have to
it
do any riding lessons before doing that?
well, it's a funny
Yeah,
story. Andrew,
we led him around in a pen for like
Oh,
2 hours.
like they
And then,
pulled me around like a toddler on a pony.
oh, that's so fun. Like, I mean, to see visually, I wish I had a photo of it.
Oh,
I
but
think we do somewhere.
yeah, but it's funny because I was actually allergic to horses when I was a child, which is why I never touched horses again.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what was going to happen up there, but I'm just the kind of guy that's like, well, I'm just going to make it happen one way or another, you know?
Oh,
And
definitely.
and the first year or 2 years, well, the first year they had to lead me around, but I was really conscious of trying to stay out of everyone's way. I mean, the idea was to not make their life harder. The idea was to document them, not to get them to be my tour guide. And, so I tried to post up in various places and, do tripod shots and stuff like that. And then go back in, Andrew helped lead me back. But in the later years when Andrew wasn't on shooting, I became competent enough, or as the guys all said, stupid enough to not realize just how dangerous this all was.
Oh, truly, yeah. I mean, that's super talented and, for, having been allergic to horses and, just not being around them too much, that's awesome to see like the evolution that you have grown in this film too. And that was gonna be one of my questions too, like were there any challenges or big surprises during the filming? So
Well,
that's
the
cool.
biggest surprise is that Andrew and I are still friends after this whole process. Wait, are we?
I'm like, oh, well, so thinking a little beyond that, like in the sense of like, what does the roundup symbolize to the both of you beyond just cattle ranching?
I think just I would say friendship was a big thing, honestly, because we became good friends with these guys and with each other. You're in a tight quarters situation, but you also just see it in the culture, and how much these guys really care for each other and take care of each other, whether it's at the roundup or in their daily lives of cattle ranching. You just really kind of see how tight knit of a community it is, and it's kind of refreshing that it's a very remote area. There's a lot of challenges just environmentally with weather and and the work that they do. And I mean, it's unheard of to have a working day, when you're working cattle or whatever, that a neighbor is not there. They're always there helping each other. They don't get paid extra. They don't get paid at all. They don't, it's there's nothing that they're trying to get out of it. It's just there, and being a friend and being a good neighbor type of thing. So I think that's really, for me, it's not that I didn't know that existed, but you just definitely see it more when you're in it, 24/7.
Mhm.
The cowboy culture and the cowboy ethic was something that, I mean, you watch shows like Yellowstone or whatever, and you see these guys like, you know, all help each other out, and I mean, they really get that part right, where it's the cowboy ethic. Like, it's for real. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody's got to go shovel shit or saddle up a horse or carry water or split wood or just wash dishes or horrible tasks that normally everybody's like, oh, I don't want to do. There's never grumbling. Somebody's like, can somebody help me shovel shit? And, every one of these guys is like, I got you, buddy. I mean, everyone is ready to go, and there's no real, I mean, of course, there's a little grumbling here and there, but ultimately, when it all boils down to it, it doesn't matter how horrible the task is. Everybody's lined up to help each other out. And it was very refreshing and to see that ethic alive. That was one thing that was really amazing. And Andrew's right about the whole idea of friendship and family camaraderie. And I mean, I'm shocked how how they welcomed. I mean, at first I was an outsider, so it was a little tough, but like but it was pretty. It's pretty amazing and heartwarming how much they really, really handed me the keys to the car. I mean, Andrew and I, they handed the keys to the car to us to document their lives, to something that normally their family members and friends aren't even allowed to go. The whole thing about Roundup is it's the best horsemen in the region are hired to gather up these cattle out of the mountains for the local ranchers in that area. And these guys are also local ranchers. So they're not just like hired hands, they're also the neighbors of these ranchers. And as you might understand, this is their living. So every cow counts, and everybody goes out and whatever the weather, and gathers up these cattle. And it's kind of amazing to see just how hard it is, and how much they work together to do it, and how much they trust each other, and how dangerous it is, and then also how much it means to everyone, because it's this time honored tradition of the roundup, which their fathers rode, their grandfathers rode, their uncles and legends rode. So if they're selected to join, it's a really big deal and a big honor to each of those guys. And once I understood that honor was transferred to me, when after shooting a little bit, they invited me back, even if Andrew, who was my connect in, even if Andrew couldn't come, they invited me back. They're like, just come gather, just come gather cattle with us. Don't even bring your cameras. So the fact that they were open minded to me joining every year was just a huge honor. So I felt the honor that they all felt about being selected.
Definitely. Yeah. And to have built so much trust with them over time. And yeah, as you mentioned, like inserting yourself, but also documenting their lives. So to be able to, really be a part of this is truly special. So that's amazing. And thinking about the cinematography, did you want to capture like the gritty realness of it, or the beauty of the land, or a little bit of both?
I mean, Brian was, principal cinematographer, and I think it was pretty evident, from the first time that he was out there, that the landscape is very much, part of the whole deal.
It's a character in the
It's a
film.
character, yeah. It's rugged. It's beautiful, and there's wildlife, which we didn't really see a whole lot. I think just because there's so much commotion with the cattle and stuff, you don't see as much as if you were just up there by yourselves or whatever. But yeah, I think it was we really just wanted to be in the environment with them, I think we did a good job. Brian did a great job of putting yourself in the same situation. We wanted you to feel like you were in the cabin with them or on the horse with them or, in the creek or what, it just, you wanted to feel that same thing because it's a very special place. And I think that comes through in the film for sure.
Yeah, we wanted the experiential approach to really add to the visual. You know, it was the whole process was a window into a world. Most people don't get to see it, and the idea is that when we're all dead and gone, and the cowboys are all dead and gone, that their grandkids and their great grandkids and the next generations will be able to see that this existed, whether it's still up there or not, or still the same, or even if it's gone, like that everybody's able to see that this existed. There's not tons of documentation of this sort of world. We're proud to have been able to capture this little slice of Americana for forever.
Yeah, and I think also just there's a major life cycle with cattle ranching. It's year round. From calving in the winter to feeding and shipping off cattle, and we could have went in a lot of different directions, I guess. To explore the world outside of this camp that we were in, but in the end, I think we really thought it was important to this is kind of their working vacation where they got to leave their ranches and go to this one area for a week, 10 days, and
just cowboy.
Yeah, and just ride horses and just sit around the campfire and just do that type of stuff. And so we wanted to really just kind of stay in that environment, so you didn't there's a lot of other aspects we could have included, but we didn't feel like it was gonna give you that same intimate kind of feeling.
The name of the film is Only Roundup Remains because when it boils down to cowboy culture, it's you say cowboy and the word evokes a lot of different things, including, rodeo and including all of these different things, even ranching. But when it boiled down to it, we realized the only place that true cowboy and still really existed was in this place, just at this cow camp. So we called it Only Roundup Remains because all they're doing there at camp is cowboy. They're gathering cattle, they're living the way cowboys did hundreds of years ago. And there's nothing else. There's no families there. There's no there's no machinery. There's no they don't have to, grow food or do anything. Like it's just cowboy. You're just working cows and horses.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys sharing that picture too, because it makes me think, and this is one of you had mentioned earlier in the interview about how, in media, or kind of what I'm thinking now, oh, Yellowstone, you mentioned, for example, was about how, media, or I'm even thinking the show Heartland, when I watched that more so growing up, how like ranching is often romanticized in media, and like you see more of the drama versus kind of the day-to-day work that is included in it. But essentially, what I'm thinking is like, how it's often ranching is often romanticized in media. How do you balance the authenticity versus the nostalgia in your storytelling?
I don't think there was any other way we could have done it. Just, I mean, I remember, there's been guys who have changed on this crew. There's 8 guys and a cook, and even since we've finished the film, there's been some turnover of people who aren't there anymore. But, this kind of like group that we had was kind of like their golden group of guys that had been there together for a good chunk of time. And I just, that was part of it. That was part of me pitching the film to Brian, was just like, you could make a film about each and every one of these guys on their own. Like they are all just unique characters, and there's no way to you know massage that out or change the perspective of how they operate. It's like they are who they are, and it was not anything that we needed to really do to make that stand out or not stand out. It's just that's what you got. They're just
Mhm.
very unique, genuine characters.
You'll see when you meet them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very much looking forward to that. So absolutely, I'll have a perspective or another perspective when I meet them and regarding that question for sure. Which makes me think too, because how you're documenting, and preserving this lifestyle and tradition, and your show is sold out, which is amazing. And there's a variety of different audiences that are coming to the show tonight. And thinking through this a little bit, if you could show this film to one specific audience, whether it's like a policymaker, like younger generations, like international viewers, who would it be and why?
Andrew and I talked at one point about traveling through small towns in Montana with this film because I think it will resonate with small town life and people that understand that world. But we sort of tried to avoid the politics of everything the within the story when we edited, because I mean we put a little bit about it because it is they're still businessmen, and they still, the fact that they don't feel represented in government, and the fact that they're struggling financially with cattle prices and things like that are very important pieces to who they are and what they do. But we decided to not focus on it because we were more interested in the sociological aspects. So if there's an audience that personally, I don't know about Andrew, but personally that I wanted to show it to it's the audience that's coming to the festival, because like I said, it's a hometown crowd. Um, Personally, I cut my teeth as a music photographer for Rolling Stone and New York Times and Spin and stuff, and I tour with bands, and so I'm known in the music industry to the point where when I told people I was making a film about a group of cowboys in Montana, they're like, "So the band is called Cowboys?" It's like, no, no, it's not a band. So the fact that it's finally come completed now, and they're able to come to the theater and watch the film all together with a group of friends and have the Cowboys come, and then to be able to share drinks afterwards and share stories afterwards. I think for me personally, that's the that makes my heart really full. Like I'm really, really looking forward, because we don't need to see our film again, but to see, and the strangers seeing the film, that's great. But to me, to have my friends and family and Andrew's family and the Cowboys here all together in one space, like it's mind blowing to me. I'm really excited to. I think the Q&A is going to be really lively because all of our friends are pretty irreverent, and the Cowboys are also similar mentality. So once everybody realizes that, you know, we're all kind of the same outsider type mentality, I think I'm hoping it'll prove to be a good Q&A.
Hmm. Oh, definitely. And yeah, no, I'm really excited to be meeting with everyone and, seeing the big crowd that we have coming on Sunday. And yeah, one of my final questions that I had was looking back, like, is there anything you wish you could have captured that you didn't?
There was just one thing that I mean, it's hard to explain, I guess, in this, but at one point in the roundup, they move camps. So they pack up all their stuff and they ride horses for, I don't know, it's like 20 miles or something to a different camp.
There's two camps
There's two camps.
because on either side of the mountain.
Yeah, they
Oh,
have to,
gotcha.
there's a lot of area that they have to cover. But I guess back in the day, they have a bunch of extra horses because they have to switch them, half days or whatever. And they used to just let them run. And they would kind of just like, they said it would just be a full on, like as fast as they could, because they tried to like run with these horses. And it was just like 20 horses just sprinting over these mountains. And I guess they used to they said that it was probably some of the craziest shit they'd ever seen. These horses would like run down the hill and like trip and like flip and just like, because they were just sprinting. It was just like a stampede going. And they eventually had to stop it. I think they stopped it the year before that we came up there. But the stories that I heard from some of that were pretty incredible. But they just said it was too much work to try to like chase them and keep them all together, and it was just like a pain in the ass. So I think that's one thing that I miss, maybe, that we didn't get to capture. But other than that, I mean, I don't know if there's something that Brian, feels like we didn't get, but we were there for pretty much everything they did while they were up there. So I don't feel like we missed much.
I mean, during the edit process, of course, we wish there was more of a drama for Act 3, but in the end, there was no real drama. So once we settled into understanding this was just, observational window into a world and a culture, we sort of embraced that. But, part of you wishes in the back of your mind when you're editing that there's this great drama of some sort that enables you to build your story around.
Aw. Well, no, that's so awesome, and to be able to, yeah, just really, round it up all together. So cool. Well, no, thank you guys so much. This has been such a fun conversation, and I can't wait to continue it in the Q&A on Sunday. Is there anything that I may not have asked or that we didn't talk about that you wanted to share?
No, I would just say, if you can make it and if you have a ticket, we're happy that you can come. And if you have any interest and you are able to view, we are hoping in the near future that we'll have it on a streaming site that you can rent or, buy or something like that. So keep an eye out on our socials if you can, and follow us, and we appreciate the support.
Definitely. Cool. All right. Yeah, and we'll be including the socials in the show notes too. So everyone will be able to follow along, and same with the DC Film Festival too. You'll be able to see some of the pictures and capture more of the Q&A as a bonus track episode. So
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Hey, thank you so much.
yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by the DCIFF supporters. We could not be here without all of you to be sharing this amazing outlet with filmmakers from around the world. If you are interested in supporting DCIFF, head on over to our website through the link description in the bio of this episode, or you can go right to the website, which is DCIFF-INDIE.org, to connect with us and learn more about our Future of Film programs, our festival, and also more educational opportunities in what we do with our high school students, community, and beyond. We look forward to your support.